Most people don't become poor because they don't earn enough. They become poor because they don't control what they earn. And this is where the first habit of future millionaires begins: consistent saving and smart budgeting. It sounds simple, almost boring, but this one habit quietly decides whether your future will be stressful or financially free. Think about your own income for a moment. Money comes in, and then, almost magically, it disappears. Bills, food, small online purchases, random spending that felt justified in the moment. At the end of the month, you look at your balance and wonder, where did it all go? That confusion is exactly what keeps millions of people stuck in the same financial position year after year. Wealthy individuals don't allow money to disappear without explanation. They give every dollar a job. They track where it goes, they plan where it should go, and most importantly, they make saving a non-negotiable priority. Not something they do if money is left at the end of the month, but something they do first. This is a powerful mental shift. Instead of spending first and saving what remains, millionaires save first and spend what remains. That one small change turns saving from an occasional action into a permanent habit. Over time, that habit compounds into something extraordinary. Imagine two people earning the same salary. One spends freely, upgrading their lifestyle every time their income increases. The other person keeps their lifestyle stable and quietly increases their savings each year. At first, their lives look identical. Same clothes, same phone, same daily routine. But 5 years later, one has a bank account filled with opportunities, and the other has nothing but memories of things they bought and no longer use. Saving is not about deprivation. It's about control. It's about telling your money where to go instead of asking where it went. And when you gain that control, you begin to feel something powerful: peace. You stop fearing unexpected expenses. You stop panicking when emergencies happen. You start to feel secure, stable, and confident in your future. Smart budgeting is what makes this possible. Budgeting is often misunderstood, but in reality, it is clarity. It shows you exactly how much you can spend without destroying your future. It removes guilt from spending because you know you are still moving toward your financial goals. When you start tracking your expenses, something interesting happens. You begin to notice patterns. Small daily costs that seemed harmless suddenly reveal their true impact. A few unnecessary purchases each week might be quietly draining thousands from your yearly income. Seeing this in numbers is often a shocking moment, but it is also the moment when people finally take control. Consistent saving also builds discipline. And discipline is the backbone of wealth. Anyone can save for 1 month. Very few people can save for 10 years without breaking the habit. But those who do eventually reach a point where their savings start working for them instead of them working only for their income. This habit is not about becoming rich overnight. It is about becoming financially stronger every single month. Slow progress may feel invisible at first, but over time it becomes undeniable. What starts as a small percentage of your income grows into a safety net, then into investment capital, and eventually into the foundation of real wealth. And that is why the journey to becoming a millionaire doesn't begin with a business idea or a lucky opportunity. It begins quietly, with the simple decision to save consistently and manage money with intention. Saving money is powerful, but saving alone will not make you a millionaire. If your money is simply sitting in a bank account, it is slowly losing value because of inflation. Prices rise, currencies weaken, and what feels like a safe decision today can quietly reduce your purchasing power over time. This is why the second habit of millionaires is not just saving, but investing early and investing regularly. Many people delay investing because they think they need a large amount of money to start. They imagine investing as something only rich people do. But the truth is the exact opposite. Investing is what makes people rich. And the earlier you start, the less money you actually need to build serious wealth. Time is the most powerful tool in investing. Not intelligence, not luck, not even a high salary time. When you invest early, your money begins to grow, and then the growth itself starts to grow. This is called compounding, and it is often described as the eighth wonder of the world because of how dramatically it can multiply wealth over long periods. Picture this clearly. If you invest a small amount every month in your 20s, your money has decades to compound. Each year, you are not just earning returns on what you invested, but also on the returns from previous years. That snowball effect starts small, almost invisible, but over time it becomes massive and unstoppable. Now imagine someone who waits until their 40s to start investing. They might earn more money and invest larger amounts, but they can never recover the lost time. They are trying to build the same snowball, but they are pushing it down a much shorter hill. And in investing, time lost is something you can never earn back. Millionaires understand this deeply. They don't try to time the market perfectly. They don't sit on the sidelines waiting for the perfect moment. Instead, they invest consistently, month after month, year after year, regardless of market ups and downs. They understand that consistency beats perfection. There is also an emotional challenge in investing that many people struggle with fear. Markets rise and fall. Headlines scream about crashes and recessions. In those moments, inexperienced investors panic. They sell when prices drop, locking in their losses, and then they wait too long to re-enter when the market recovers. The cycle destroys wealth. Wealthy investors do the opposite. When markets fall, they remain calm because they see it as a temporary discount on valuable assets. They stay invested, they keep contributing, and they allow time to do its work. This emotional discipline is just as important as financial knowledge. Investing also changes how you think about money. Instead of seeing money only as something you spend, you start seeing it as a tool that can work for you even while you sleep. Your mindset shifts from being only a worker earning income to being an owner building assets. And that shift is life-changing because it breaks the cycle of trading time for money forever. You don't need to be a financial expert to start. Simple investment vehicles like index funds, retirement accounts, or diversified portfolios allow ordinary people to participate in the growth of entire economies. The key is not complexity, it is commitment. At first, your investments may seem small, almost insignificant. You might look at your account and feel disappointed that it hasn't grown dramatically in the first year or two. But those who become millionaires understand that investing is a long game. They stay patient when results are slow because they know that the real magic happens later when years of consistent investing suddenly begin to show explosive growth. This habit separates dreamers from builders. Anyone can say they want to be wealthy, but only those who invest consistently give their money the chance to grow beyond their salary. And over time, it is not the person who earned the most who wins. It is the person who allowed their money the most time to multiply. There is one trait you will find in almost every self-made millionaire, regardless of industry, country, or background. They never stop learning. While most people see education as something that ends after school or university, wealthy individuals treat learning as a lifelong habit. They understand that in a world that is constantly changing, the person who keeps learning is the person who keeps growing. Think about how quickly industries evolve today. New technologies appear, markets shift, consumer behavior changes, and entire careers that were stable 10 years ago suddenly become outdated. If your knowledge stays the same while the world moves forward, your value in the marketplace slowly decreases. That is a hard truth, but it is also a powerful opportunity because the opposite is equally true. When your knowledge keeps expanding, your opportunities expand with it. Millionaires don't wait for someone to teach them what they need to know. They actively seek information. They read books, watch educational content, listen to podcasts, attend seminars, and learn from people who are already where they want to be. They are curious, and that curiosity becomes one of their greatest advantages. Many people avoid learning new skills because it feels uncomfortable. It requires time, effort, and sometimes a painful realization that you don't know as much as you thought you did. But successful individuals lean into that discomfort. They understand that every new skill they acquire increases their ability to earn, to lead, and to make smarter financial decisions. Imagine two professionals working in the same field. One does only what is required to keep their job. The other spends a few hours every week learning new tools, understanding market trends, and improving their communication and leadership skills. At first, the difference between them is invisible, but over the years, one remains stuck in the same position, while the other becomes the person companies compete to hire. The gap in their income and opportunities becomes massive, and it all started with the simple habit of continuous learning. Learning also protects you from costly mistakes. In financial management and business, ignorance is expensive. People lose money in bad investments, poor partnerships, or weak business decisions, not because they are unlucky, but because they lack the knowledge to evaluate risks properly. Education gives you the ability to see traps before you step into them. It sharpens your judgment and helps you make decisions based on logic rather than emotion. There's also something deeply empowering about understanding how money, business, and markets actually work. Fear often comes from uncertainty. When you don't understand a financial concept, you avoid it. You delay investing, you hesitate to start a business, you miss opportunities because they feel risky and confusing. But once you learn, once the fog clears and the concepts start to make sense, that fear is replaced with confidence. You begin to act instead of hesitate. Successful people also learn from others' experiences. They read biographies, case studies, and real-world business stories so they can absorb decades of lessons without having to make every mistake themselves. It is like borrowing wisdom at a fraction of the cost. Instead of learning only through trial and error, they learn through observation and reflection. Over time, this habit compounds just like money does. The knowledge you gain today becomes the foundation for understanding more complex ideas tomorrow. Skills stack on top of each other. What once felt difficult becomes easy, and what once felt impossible becomes achievable. Slowly, almost quietly, you transform into a person who thinks differently, analyzes differently, and earns differently. This is why continuous learning is not just an academic exercise. It is a wealth-building strategy. It increases your earning potential, strengthens your decision-making, and opens doors you didn't even know existed. And those who commit to learning long after others have stopped are often the ones who rise far above the average and build extraordinary financial lives. Most people grow up believing in a simple formula: study hard, get a good job, work for decades, and eventually you will be financially secure. It sounds stable, predictable, and safe. But the reality of today's economy tells a different story. Relying on a single source of income is no longer security, it is risk. And this is why one of the most powerful habits of millionaires is developing multiple streams of income. When all your financial stability depends on one paycheck, your life becomes extremely fragile. A company restructuring, an economic downturn, or even a simple disagreement with your employer can suddenly cut off your only source of money. In that moment, bills don't stop, responsibilities don't pause, and the pressure becomes overwhelming. That kind of vulnerability creates constant stress. Even if you don't always notice it consciously, millionaires think differently. They don't just ask, how can I earn more for my job? They ask, how can I make money in more than one way? This mindset changes everything. Instead of depending on one pillar to hold up their financial life, they build multiple pillars. If one weakens, the others continue to support them. Multiple income streams can come in many forms. There might be a side business, freelance work, rental income, dividends from investments, digital products, or partnerships in small ventures. None of these streams needs to start large. In fact, most of them begin very small, almost insignificant. But over time, they grow. And more importantly, they give you options. There is a powerful emotional shift that happens when you earn money from more than one source. Your fear of losing your main job decreases. You start to negotiate with more confidence. You begin to make career decisions based on growth and happiness instead of pure survival. That sense of control over your life is something people often chase for years without realizing that it begins with diversifying income. Building multiple streams does require effort and patience. After a long day of work, the idea of spending extra hours on a side project can feel exhausting. Many people quit at this stage because they expect quick results. But those who eventually become financially independent understand that the early phase is supposed to be slow. They are planting seeds, not expecting instant trees. At first, your side income might only cover a few small expenses. It may not feel impressive. You might even question whether the effort is worth it. But then, something interesting happens. As you keep working on it, you improve your skills, you understand your audience or market better, and your income slowly starts to increase. What was once a small trickle begins to feel like a second salary. Another major advantage of multiple income streams is that they accelerate wealth creation. Instead of relying on one source to save and invest, you now have extra money that can be directed straight into investments, business expansion, or debt reduction. This speeds up your financial progress in a way that a single income rarely can. Millionaires also understand that income diversification is not just about money. It is about resilience. Economies change, industries rise and fall, and technology constantly disrupts traditional careers. Having multiple streams protects you from being completely dependent on one system that may not exist in the same form 10 years from now. Over time, this habit transforms your identity. You stop seeing yourself as only an employee and start seeing yourself as a creator, an investor, and a business-minded individual. You begin to think in terms of opportunities instead of limitations. And that mental shift is often the moment when people stop living paycheck to paycheck and start building real, lasting wealth. One of the biggest differences between people who build wealth and those who struggle financially is not intelligence, education, or even opportunity, it is discipline. Millionaires are not always the most talented people in the room, but they are often the most consistent. They understand something that many others ignore. Small, disciplined choices repeated over years create massive results. In a world that encourages instant gratification, discipline has become rare. Everywhere you look, there are messages telling you to buy now, upgrade now, enjoy now, and worry about the future later. It feels good in the moment. A new phone, a fancy dinner, a luxury item you don't truly need. These purchases bring a short burst of excitement, but that excitement fades quickly, while the financial impact stays with you for much longer. Wealthy individuals train themselves to think differently. When they are about to spend money, they don't just ask, do I want this? They ask a deeper question. Is this helping or hurting my long-term goals? That pause, that moment of reflection, is where discipline lives. It is quiet, often uncomfortable, but incredibly powerful. Delaying gratification is not about denying yourself happiness. It is about choosing a bigger, more meaningful reward in the future over a small, temporary pleasure today. This is not always easy. There will be moments when your friends are spending freely, upgrading their lifestyle, enjoying luxuries that you deliberately avoid. In those moments, discipline can feel lonely. You might even question whether you're being too strict with yourself. But time reveals the truth. Years later, while others are stressed about debt, unstable finances, or a lack of savings, the disciplined individual is standing on a strong financial foundation. They have options. They can invest, start businesses, travel without fear, or support their family in ways that others simply cannot. What once looked like sacrifice now looks like wisdom. Long-term thinking is what makes discipline meaningful. Anyone can control their spending for a few weeks or months. But building wealth requires thinking in years, even decades. Millionaires often make decisions today based on how those decisions will affect their life 10 or 20 years from now. That level of foresight changes how you approach everything from your career choices to your daily spending habits. There is also a psychological strength that develops through disciplined behavior. Every time you resist an unnecessary expense, every time you stick to your savings plan, every time you choose to invest instead of indulge, you are training your mind to stay focused on what truly matters. Over time, the self-control spreads into other areas of life. Your work ethic improves, your decision-making becomes clearer, and you develop a calm confidence in your ability to stay committed even when things get difficult. Discipline also protects you from emotional, financial decisions. Many people spend more when they are stressed, bored, or trying to impress others. They use money as a way to feel better in the short term, but this habit quietly damages their long-term stability. A disciplined person recognizes these emotional triggers and learns to manage them without harming their financial future. This habit does not make life boring or restrictive. In fact, it creates the opposite. When you are financially disciplined, you eventually reach a point where you can afford things without guilt or fear. You can enjoy experiences and purchases knowing they are not destroying your future. That freedom is far more satisfying than any impulsive purchase could ever be. In the end, becoming wealthy is rarely about one big, dramatic decision. It is about hundreds of small, disciplined choices made when no one is watching, when there is no applause, and when the results are not immediately visible. Those who stay committed to these choices, who keep their eyes fixed on the long-term vision, are the ones who slowly but surely move from financial stress to financial strength. There is a common saying that your network determines your net worth. And while it may sound like a cliche, it carries a powerful truth. The people you surround yourself with influence how you think, what opportunities you see, and how far you can grow. Millionaires understand this deeply, which is why they intentionally build strong, meaningful networks instead of leaving their social circle to chance. Think about how opportunities actually appear in real life. They rarely come from random strangers or from sitting alone waiting for success to arrive. Opportunities come through conversations, introductions, recommendations, and shared ideas. One discussion can lead to a partnership. One connection can lead to a job, an investment, or a business breakthrough. But these moments only happen when you are connected to people who are active, ambitious, and moving forward in their own lives. Many people underestimate the value of relationships because they focus only on immediate financial gain. They ask, how much will this connection pay me today? Millionaires ask a different question. They ask, what kind of people am I learning from? What kind of environment am I placing myself in? They understand that being around driven, knowledgeable individuals naturally raises their own standards and expands their vision. There's also an emotional component to networking that is often ignored. When you are surrounded by people who think small, complain constantly, or avoid taking risks, it becomes easy to adopt the same mindset. Slowly, your ambitions shrink without you even realizing it. On the other hand, when you regularly interact with people who discuss ideas, investments, business strategies, and personal growth, your mind starts operating at a higher level. You begin to see possibilities where you once saw obstacles. Strong networking is not about collecting contacts or handing out business cards in a forced, artificial way. It is about building genuine relationships based on trust, respect, and mutual benefit. Millionaires focus on adding value first. They help others, share knowledge, make introductions, and support people in their circle without expecting immediate returns. Over time, this generosity creates a powerful reputation, and people naturally want to collaborate and work with them. Opportunity awareness is another skill that develops through strong connections. When you are connected to different industries, professions, and communities, you hear about trends, openings, and ideas long before they become widely known. You are not the last person to hear about a new business model or investment trend. You were among the first. That early awareness gives you time to analyze, prepare, and act while others are still unaware. There is also a confidence that comes from knowing you are not alone in your journey. Building wealth and growing professionally can feel isolating at times. Challenges appear, doubts creep in, and motivation can drop. But when you have a network of supportive, forward-thinking people, you gain access to advice, encouragement, and shared experiences. Someone else has faced the problem you are dealing with right now, and their guidance can save you from costly mistakes and wasted time. Over the years, these relationships become one of your most valuable assets. Skills can be learned and money can be lost and earned again. But a strong network built on genuine respect and trust continues to open doors again and again. It becomes a quiet force working in the background of your life, connecting you to people, ideas, and opportunities that you could never reach alone. And when you look closely at the journeys of those who achieve extraordinary financial success, you often discover that behind every major milestone was not just a good decision, but also the right person appearing at the right moment, because they had built the habit of staying connected, visible, and open to opportunity.